All right, this section is going to talk about some of the human genetic disorders that are fairly common, even though they are, they're not in the majority of the population by any means, but there are some pretty common ones that are studied that you should probably be familiar with. Causes of genetic disorders are not the same as diseases, which are like bacteria, parasites, or viruses, things like that. These are they do have a predisposition to appear, and they are caused by some kind of damage to your DNA. Um, so whether that is the actual coding in it, maybe a extra coding of it, maybe extra chromosomes, maybe damaged chromosome, but they all do because our instructions on what our body should do isn't, well, normal. Some of these do come with their advantages and disadvantages, but overall they are seen as disorders and therefore things that the normal person probably doesn't have to think about too often. Our first is cystic fibrosis. This picture is my buddy Brian from college. He has cystic fibrosis. Basically what it's going to do is your body's going to produce an abnormally thick mucus in your lungs and intestine. It is caused by a recessive allele resulting from a mutation in DNA. So it is recessive, therefore making it fairly rare. But basically what Brian has to do is he has to pump this mucus out of him every now and then. He does going to lower his life expectancy, but it doesn't stop him from living a normal life by any means. He has to deal with this. It's just, again, just built up of thick mucus. Next is sickle cell disease or sickle cell anemia, which is commonly referred to. This is a defect in your hemoglobin. Um, but it causes your blood cells to be in the shape of a sickle instead of your normal. So if you look at the picture there, you get the sickle shape. That's your blood cell versus your normal blood cell. This does cause some problems in the hemoglobin of the blood, which is that molecule that carries oxygen around your body. So, that's pretty important. Sickle cell also tend to get caught on arteries more if you eat like greasy foods and you get that cholesterol buildup. They do tend to catch more on the sides of arteries with cholesterol, and therefore you're more prone to heart disease and heart attacks and things of that nature. Sickle cell is also a codominant allele, so if you have one of our alleles for it, you will have some normal blood cells and some sickle-shaped blood cells. On a plus side, you also get kind of a defense against malaria. Apparently, malaria doesn't really like people with sickle cell disorder for some reason. Uh, Also, because malaria is more an African disease, sickle cell disease is also more common in African Americans or people of African descent. Our next we touched briefly on already, which was hemophilia. Hemophilia is about how your blood doesn't clot. This is a sex-linked disorder, so it is found on your X chromosome. Again, not all genes on your X chromosome deal with your sex, but therefore it is going to be more common in males than it is in females because of that. Again, like the last video said, girls tend to have that extra X chromosome to mask over these things while guys don't. So if a guy has this on their X chromosome, they are going to show it. If a girl has it on one of their X chromosomes, they will be a carrier and not actually have it. This is very much similar to my color blindness on how it goes. But it is a pretty dangerous disorder to have because your blood is going to clot slowly or it's not going to clot at all, and therefore a simple cut could make you bleed out, and therefore you'll need to go to the emergency room. Another danger is internal bleeding, which all of you have had because that's what a bruise is. It still won't clot even though it's inside, so even bruising will be a problem for this population. Next common one is Down syndrome, or also known as trisomy 21. This is basically you just have an extra copy of your 21st chromosome. This is often comorbid with MR or mental retardation, which is actually not what it should be called anymore. It's actually called intellectual disability, but I didn't update my PowerPoint. So a lot of times if you have Down syndrome, you also experience this intellectual disability, and that's classified as low IQ versus achievement. So you're also going to get heart defects with this, is pretty common. And basically this chromosome doesn't really separate properly during meiosis in your sex cells. Pedigrees are tools, so this is not a genetic disorder. You can look on page 119 for a little more in depth on it, but they are tools that trace the inheritance of traits in humans. So you can look at these tools, have them done on you, and you can see all the different family members and their traits. So it basically looks like a family tree, but it tracks members of the family with a particular trait. So here, I'm going to move my face out of the way so you can see it, is an example of a pedigree. You can see our circular ovals that are yellowish are carriers. So here we have a female carrier and a male non-carrier. This would be your affected male, this would be your standard male, unaffected male, and standard female, or affected female, standard female. So as you can see, you pretty much do it like you do Punnett squares. Each breed has 4 offspring, and you can see what they have. So here we have normal X and mutated X, and normal X and normal Y, and there's only one type of Y. So if dad passes on normal Y and mom passes on normal X, you get this guy. If dad passes on normal X and mom passes on normal X, you get this guy. Oh. Or you could get your carrier, or you can get your infected, just like my color blindness works. And then you can see how they would react to other people that would be in your family. You can go through it.